Your phone costs $400 more than it did 1 year ago. Your laptop, same story. And here is what nobody is telling you, and it's not inflation. It is something far worse. It's the end of an era, and if you're building wealth, you need to see this coming. In 2010, you could buy a flagship phone for $199 with a contract. Today, processing power costs hundreds of dollars more. The chip inside didn't get 5x better. The materials didn't become scarce overnight. What changed is the supply chain became a weapon, and weapons are expensive. Let me take you back to where this started, not in Silicon Valley, but in the Congo, specifically a mine called Kasese. In 2020, the Democratic Republic of Congo controlled about 70% of the world's cobalt. Cobalt is what makes your battery work, what makes your electric car possible, what makes your renewable energy dream viable. But here is the problem. When you control 70% of anything, the world gets nervous. China watched this carefully. They realized something crucial. You don't need to own the mines, you just need to own the processing. By 2021, China accounted for approximately 70% of global cobalt refining. They took the raw material and made it useful, and then they raised prices. Not by 10%, by 300% in some cases. Your next device just got exponentially more expensive, and it wasn't because Apple or Samsung decided to charge you more. They had no choice. But that is only half the story, and this is where it gets interesting for wealth builders. Lithium prices followed the same trajectory. In 2020, lithium cost $8,000 per ton. By 2022, it hit $18,000, then $60,000. Your next car battery, the thing that makes electric vehicles cheaper to own long-term, suddenly became a luxury item. Tesla raised prices 5 times in 1 year. Not because demand dropped, because supply became a hostage situation. Here is what most people miss. This isn't random. It's resource protectionism, and it is deliberate. In 2023, Indonesia banned the export of raw nickel ore. Why? Because they realized they were selling raw materials cheap while other countries refined them into high-value products and got rich. So, they stopped. Now, nickel prices are controlled by a single country's export policy. Your device costs more. Indonesia keeps more profit. The math is brutal and it's working. And it's spreading like a contagion through every critical mineral. Rare earths, the elements that make your phone's screen vibrant, that make your EV's motor efficient, 75% of the world's processing capacity is in China, not mining, processing. This matters because processed minerals are where the margin lives. China didn't need to own the mountains. They just needed to own the factories. The United States saw this and panicked. In 2022, the Inflation Reduction Act allocated $369 billion to bring manufacturing home. Sounds great. Except domestic rare earth processing costs 3 to 4 times more than Chinese production. That cost gets passed to you. Your next iPhone doesn't cost more because Tim Cook wants a bigger yacht. It costs more because the supply chain is being weaponized and nationalized. Here's the mechanism that should worry you. When countries realize they control something the world needs, they don't compete on price. They compete on access. They form cartels. They restrict exports. They suddenly decide, we're keeping this for domestic use. And the global consumer, that's you, becomes the shock absorber for a new world order of material scarcity. Copper is next. You're seeing it already. Copper is in everything, your wiring, your circuit boards, your power infrastructure for renewable energy. The pattern is always the same. Awareness, protectionism, cartelization, price explosion, and here's where this inverts for wealth builders. While everyone else is complaining about expensive tech, you should be thinking about where the money is actually flowing. It's not staying with Apple or Samsung, it's flowing to countries that control raw materials. It's flowing to processing companies that have consolidated power. It's flowing to the refineries, not the retailers. This is why some investors started buying stakes in lithium companies in 2020 when cobalt was still cheap. They weren't buying because they loved mining stocks. They were buying because they could see the supply chain tightening. Albemarle Corporation's stock returned 340% in 3 years. Lithium royalties, similar trajectory. Not because demand surprised anyone, because supply became the limiting factor, and whoever controls supply controls price. But here's the trap that looks like opportunity. If you think you can just invest in mining companies and win, you're thinking like 2010. The game has evolved. Countries are nationalizing. Companies are vertical integrating. The easy arbitrage is gone. Now you need to understand geopolitics to make money in materials. The real play is harder and longer term. Companies that diversify supply chains. Companies that invest in battery recycling, because recycled cobalt costs less than mined cobalt, and as prices rise, recycling becomes profitable. Companies that develop alternatives to rare earths. This is where the smart money is moving, and it's unsexy because there's no hype cycle. Meanwhile, your cost of living is about to shift. Your next phone will cost more, not $50 more, hundreds. Your next laptop, your next car, your next anything with a chip, the supply chain tax is built in now. This isn't temporary inflation. This is the new baseline. And most people won't understand why. They'll just feel poorer. The uncomfortable truth is this: cheap tech was a 20-year anomaly. It wasn't the natural state of the world. It was the result of globalization, cheap labor, and the myth of infinite resources. That era ended quietly in 2019. We're just now seeing the bill. And if you're building wealth, you're either on the side that controls supply or on the side that pays for it. If you liked hearing how you are getting screwed over, then you'll want to watch this video to see how data centers are affecting your utility bill.